By 7:15 in the morning, Maple Ridge Drive looked like someone had summoned a full tactical response team to mediate a bake sale disagreement. 3 unmarked SUVs boxed in the entrance. A United States Marshal's van idled beside the mailboxes. County sheriff cruisers covered the exit. Neighbors in pajamas and mismatched bathrobes crowded their porches. Phones out, recording like it was the finale of a reality show. In the center of the chaos, right on the immaculate HOA clubhouse lawn beneath a hand-carved wooden sign that read, "Maple Ridge Estates where excellence lives," 3 people lay face down in zip-tie cuffs, surrounded by federal agents in tactical vests. The woman in the middle was Patricia Brennan, HOA president, self-appointed neighborhood monarch, and the person who'd made my life a living nightmare for 6 straight months over a fence. Her salon-smooth hair was matted into the wet grass, her white blazer streaked with mud. Flanking her were her 2 pet enforcers, Derek Stone and Marcus Chen, sporting matching black tactical vests with Mr. Security Patrol patches and expressions of pure horror. Their clip-on badges suddenly looked laughably small now that real law enforcement stood over them. I stood about 10 feet away, credentials hanging from my neck, manila folder tucked under one arm, watching with the quiet satisfaction of someone who had waited a very, very long time for this moment. A deputy marshal shot me a glance and nodded. "You want to read them their rights, Agent Garrett?" I walked forward, slow and deliberate, until Patricia could see the toes of my boots. She squinted up through grass-smeared confusion, then went sheet-white the moment recognition hit. "Michael," she gasped, "you cannot be here. This is HOA property, and you are trespassing." I lifted the paperwork. "Patricia Brennan, Derek Stone, Marcus Chen are under arrest on federal warrants for impersonating law enforcement officers, conspiracy, and using a firearm in furtherance of a civil rights violation under Title 18. United States Code." The quiet guy from the end of the cul-de-sac cleared his throat, making sure every syllable was perfect. "And just so we're clear," I added as a dozen neighbors' phones zoomed in on my face, "this is not an HOA violation. This is a federal crime." Tricia immediately launched into shrieking about community, standards and government overreach, and her powerful attorneys and connections. But my mind drifted back to 2 weeks earlier, when Derek had shoved a pistol into my stomach over my supposedly illegal fence and delivered the line. It sealed his fate. "We are the law in this neighborhood, buddy. You answer to us now?" Well, about that. My name is Michael Garrett. On paper, I'm a quiet homeowner tucked at the end of a dead-end street in Maple Ridge Estates, a cookie-cutter suburban development, where every house looks like it was designed by the same architect having the same repetitive dream. I live in a 2-story colonial on a corner lot with a 7-foot privacy fence around the backyard. I keep my lawn mowed, my driveway clean, and my interactions with neighbors polite and minimal. What most people don't know is that I'm a special agent with a federal law enforcement agency, the kind that investigates serious crimes, and I have zero tolerance for civilians who pretend to be cops. But around here, I was just Michael, the guy who worked from home doing something vague with computers. I let that rumor live because it kept people from asking questions. Then Patricia Brennan moved in. Patricia swept into Maple Ridge like a hurricane wearing yoga pants mid-50s. Aggressively blonde, always wrapped in designer athleisure, and wielding a clipboard like a ceremonial staff. Within 2 months, she'd staged a coup at the annual HOA meeting, crowned herself president, and begun reorganizing the neighborhood like it was her personal kingdom. She formed committees for everything landscaping standards, architectural review, community compliance. She sent newsletters that read like royal edicts. She measured garbage cans with a tape measure and left passive-aggressive notes if they were 3 inches too far from the curb. Our first real encounter was over my fence. She appeared at my door one Saturday morning, clipboard raised, smile so forced it looked painful. "Good morning, Michael," she sang in the tone people use when they're about to ruin your weekend. "I'm Patricia, your HOA president. I wanted to discuss your backyard perimeter." "You mean my fence?" I said, "Yes, that structure." Her smile twitched. According to Maple Ridge covenants, fences cannot exceed 4 feet and must be decorative rail style to maintain cohesive aesthetic harmony. Yours is 7 feet and completely solid, which creates a visual disruption.
Ow.
It was here when I bought the house, I said. Installed by the previous owner before the HOA existed, it's grandfathered under the original deed restrictions. Her smile evaporated entirely. That is not how communities work, Michael. We all sacrifice for the greater good. Your fence sends an unfriendly message. The board has decided it must come down, and we're prepared to work with you on a reasonable timeline. No, I said flatly. Her eyes went icy. Excuse me? My fence stays. It's legal. It's grandfathered, and it is not subject to your rules. We're done here. She leaned in, voice dropping to something sharp and venomous. If you refuse to cooperate voluntarily, we have enforcement mechanisms. I suggest you reconsider. I recognized that tone instantly. I'd heard it from dozens of small-time criminals who thought they'd found leverage. I closed the door, checked my security cameras, and waited. I didn't wait long. The letters started arriving within a week. Courtesy notice: your fence violates community height standards. Submit a removal plan within 14 days. Second notice: failure to comply will result in daily fines of $50. Final. Warning: legal action will be pursued if the non-compliant structure is not removed immediately. They arrived certified mail. They looked official. They carried absolutely zero legal authority, but Patricia did not care about that detail. I sent one reply, short and unequivocal. My property is not subject to Maple Ridge HOA covenants per the original plat documents. Any further attempts at enforcement will be considered harassment. That only fueled her escalation. Strange cars began appearing on my street. A black SUV with a yellow magnetic security sticker started creeping past my house at night. Neighbors whispered about the new Maple Ridge Security Patrol Patricia had created. She even announced it in the monthly newsletter, complete with a photo of two men in matching tactical vests. To ensure safety and standards compliance, Maple Ridge Estates now has its own security patrol. Our trained officers will monitor violations and assist in enforcement actions. Trained, apparently, meant they binge-watched police dramas and ordered gear off Amazon. The first time I met them face-to-face was
on a Sunday afternoon. I was trimming the hedges when the so-called security SUV rolled up and boxed in my driveway. Out stepped Derek Stone, a mid-30s guy with shaved head, mirror shades, and the forced swagger of someone compensating for a very empty resume. Behind him climbed Marcus Chun, who looked like an accountant pretending to be tactical for Halloween. Both wore black vests stamped with MRSB, as if embroidery alone made them important. "You the homeowner?" Derek asked, his hand hovering near a suspicious bulge on his belt that definitely looked like a firearm. "That would be me," I said. "Something I can help you two with?" "We're with Maple Ridge Security Patrol," Derek announced. Puffing up, "We received multiple complaints about an unauthorized fence on this property." "That's so?" I asked. "Complaints from who exactly?" Marcus shifted awkwardly. "From concerned residents. And the HOA president has authorized us to..." "Authorize you to what?" I cut in. "Trespass on my driveway and cosplay as law enforcement?" Derek stepped closer, invading my space like he practiced in a mirror. "We aren't pretending anything. We have full enforcement authority in this neighborhood. You can cooperate or we can escalate." There was the magic line that turned this whole mess into my professional problem. "Get off my property," I said quietly. Derek smirked. "Or what? You gonna call the real cops?" "Good luck. We work with them." They left eventually, but after that the patrols doubled. My cameras caught them doing slow midnight laps around my yard, shining spotlights over my fence like they were raiding a cartel compound. Violation notices started appearing on my door, taped there with photos of my backyard that had clearly been taken from a neighbor's upstairs window, without permission. People at the mailboxes whispered, "Yeah, that's the guy with the illegal fence. Security is dealing with him." I would have let it ride longer, kept gathering evidence, but then Derek introduced a firearm into the equation. That's when neighborhood drama officially crossed into federal jurisdiction. It was a Thursday night, 9:37 p.m. according to the timestamp that would later appear in court. I was in my office reviewing case files when someone hammered on my front door like they were trying to breach it. My security system lit up. Two figures on the porch, Derek Stone and Marcus Chun. Same vests, same badges, same delusions. I opened the door, but stayed behind the storm door. You two again? What now? Derek squared his shoulders. This is an official enforcement visit. You've ignored multiple notices. This is your final chance to comply before we take formal action. Formal action? I repeated. Interesting. And what agency are you with? Maple Ridge Security Patrol. Marcus said, pulling out a laminated ID like it meant something. We operate under delegated authority from the HOA board. Derek reached into his vest and flipped open a badge wallet with the confidence of someone who had practiced this in the bathroom mirror. We're certified security officers, and you're in violation of community ordinances. Step outside, sir. The badge was a cheap metal disc with an eagle clip art graphic and the word special officer printed on it. Impersonating law enforcement is a felony, I said evenly. Derek's jaw clenched. We aren't impersonating anyone. We have legal authority here. Now step outside before this gets worse. He shifted his vest deliberately, letting me see the black polymer grip of a handgun tucked into his waistband. My pulse sharpened, not from fear, but from the cold precision that years of training instill. Behind him, my camera recorded everything. The gun, the threats, their voices. You're threatening me with firearm, I said slowly. Over fence. Derek leaned in. You're obstructing officers in performance of their duties. That's a crime. Now, are you going to cooperate, or do we need to make this official? Marcus tugged his sleeve nervously. Maybe we should just report this. Let Patricia deal with it. She told us to handle it. Derek snapped. Then to me, last chance. I stepped back, hands visible, face neutral. Everything you just said and did is on camera. I suggest you leave my property immediately. Maybe it was my tone. Maybe Marcus realized they were about to step in something they couldn't climb out of. Either way, he pulled Derek toward the driveway. We'll be back, Derek called out. With a warrant. Try that again, I said, and closed the door. I went straight to my computer, pulled the footage, and by 11 p.m. had files sent to 3 places. My supervisors, an assistant U.S. attorney I'd worked with before, and the local police chief. Screenshots of their fake badges, video of the gun, and a PDF of Patricia's newsletter bragging about her officers partnering with law enforcement. The subject line was simple. Armed impersonation of law enforcement to coerce HOA compliance. Recommend immediate action. Things escalated faster than I expected. The police chief called at 7 a.m. Please tell me this video is real. I played the clip. Derek's voice came through. We are certified security officers. You are obstructing officers in the performance of their duties. The chief groaned. I hate suburban vigilantes. By noon, he'd forwarded everything to the county prosecutor. I walked the footage up to my task force supervisor, who watched it twice. That an actual gun? He asked. 9mm Glock, I said, confirmed by a second camera angle. He rubbed his temples. Okay, now it's federal. The assistant U.S. attorney pulled relevant case law and started drafting charges. Impersonating officers of the United States. Deprivation of rights under color of law. Conspiracy. Use of a firearm in furtherance of a felony. My supervisor at first said, let the locals handle it. We got bigger cases. Then I showed him Patricia's newsletter where she claimed her patrol coordinated with federal agencies. He stared at it. Okay, now I care. Background checks came back quick. Derek had a prior assault that pled down. Marcus was just catastrophically stupid. Patricia had 15 years of petty lawsuits and HOA disputes across 3 states. Local PD quietly interviewed residents. The stories poured in. A 17-year-old pulled over by the patrol using flashing lights. A woman who'd been cited for leaving her trash cans out. A man who said Derek showed him his gun and promised to make problems disappear. The AUSA skimmed it all, then smiled thinly. You know what I hate more than organized crime? Suburban wannabe cops with guns. We're going federal. Over the next 10 days, we built the case. Confirmed Derek carried a gun with no license. Subpoenaed the neighborhood Facebook group, where he posted pictures in his vest with captions like keeping Maple Ridge safe. Don't test us. Essentially, he provided his own confession. Warrants were approved. The marshals took lead. My supervisor asked if I wanted in. I remembered the gun in my ribs. Derek's smirk. Patricia's arrogance. Absolutely, I said, and that's how we rolled into Maple Ridge at dawn, while the HOA's pretend police finally learned what real law enforcement looked like.